Welcome to the Holistic Career Change Podcast. Spoiler alert, we don't discuss conventional, linear, boring career change here. This is the place where we talk about finding an aligned career path that feels like an extension of who you are, where you get paid for being yourself. Forget personality quizzes, soul-crushing scrolling on job sites, and breaking your brain trying to find your why. Join me and many other career changers who've changed their career holistically by first defining who they are at their core and then using this blueprint to design a fulfilling career or business. We use the mind-body-soul approach, and we take into consideration the complexity and multidimensionality of all that you are and want to represent in the world. This is where purpose-led careers are born and built. I'm your host, Vilma Oseita. Let's go. Hi, lovers and friends. Hope this episode is finding you a really good time. And if not, I hope that this episode will help you feel better or at least have like one aha moment. So I thought I'm going to record this one for those of you who often feel like they lack in follow through on things that they said that they would do. And for those of you who find yourself procrastinating even on tasks that you know deep in your soul, you know this is the right direction, but for some reason, in spite of this deep knowing and want to go there, it does not always translate into a more consistent action. And when I say consistent, I feel like I need to explain myself. I really want to emphasize that I don't believe in this myth that we could create this uniform consistency in our, say, habits that looks the same every single day. For me, consistency is about just showing up imperfectly. So as an example, I can give you myself. I have a very elaborate morning routine. And by the way, you don't need a morning routine in order to be in any way, shape, or form successful or aligned. I really don't believe there is just one way for us to organize our days. I'm just a fan of mornings, and I am a fan of morning routines. That's why I have them, and mine is pretty long. And it includes reading and meditating and self-coaching, belief work, and so on and so forth. And there are days, like for instance, this morning, when I really feel it, like I feel every activity, like I'm one with each of those activities, and I can ground into meditation. I can really journal and sometimes have even these life-changing breakthroughs in my journaling sessions, and I am present when I'm reading. My goal is to read 10 pages of whatever book that I'm reading every morning, right? So it's pretty doable. So there are definitely those days where I'm just switched on, and I feel like I'm a new person after I'm done with my morning routine. And then there are days, and they're not uncommon at all, where I just could not care less about meditating. I don't care about my skincare routine. I just do not care at all. And I'd rather sleep in or get my coffee, go back to my bed, and watch some funny cat memes in bed. I just don't care about all of those other things. So in the past, that's what used to happen. If I would allow my feelings, and my feelings would be either dictated by my thoughts or by hormones or both, I would allow those feelings dictate the tone and productivity of the day. And from that point forward, if I had one of those days when I would fail on that promise to myself first thing in the morning, I feel like this would bleed into the rest of the day, and it would just essentially go downhill from there, right? Because the underlying thought would be like, well, I already failed, so why try? And I would almost unconsciously co-sign an agreement that this will be the day where I'm just slacking and not showing up for my future self. Obviously, not all of this was conscious. Sometimes I would just be, going through the day thinking I'm getting things done, but really I was resigned. I was disconnected already. So when I intentionally decided that I want to work on this and I want to work on my devotion or consistency, what I had to become okay with is that on some days I will feel empowered and on top of the world and will blitz through my plans for the day. And then on some other days, I won't feel that. And when I don't feel that, I'm not going to force myself to do it all perfectly and go into the all or nothing black or white thinking is like, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. So what I told myself and give myself permission is to simply show up. So for example, I would still read in the morning, but maybe I will only muster up 2 pages instead of 10 pages. And even then it will feel like a stretch. You guys, I'm so dramatic. Like I would be like reading those 2 pages, like making faces like a child. I'd be like, oh, I don't care. I don't want to read this right now. But you know what? It's not about even reading those two pages. Sometimes the next day I'll have to go back and read them because I would not even retain information. It's not about that. It's about keeping that promise to myself. Or instead of 10 minutes of, say, facial massage, like I like to do in the morning, I would do a minute. Instead of working on my limiting beliefs in the morning, I would just write down, 3 sentences about how everything sucks that day because I am, having my period, for instance, right? Or instead of doing an elaborate 30-minute meditation, I will just play some binaural beats and I will just sit there and listen to the music for a few minutes. Do you see where I'm going with this? I saw this quote that I really loved. It was the visual that consistency looks very different every day. And really that's the key of us to stay devoted to whatever it is that we're calling into our life. So the goal for me to became not to do it all perfectly, but just simply show up imperfectly, messy, sometimes chaotic. And every time I do that, I'm strengthening my relationship with me. And I notice how these little habits start to accumulate and multiply, and they start creating momentum and a big sense of progress for me. When I look back, I use a habit tracker app called Habits, I think. And I would I would go back and I look at how I, showed up during like last week or in a month. And for me, seeing that I showed up, knowing that it was imperfect, makes me feel motivated to continue with the next month, with the next week. And I'm sharing this example because I feel like there's a lot of, again, misconception about consistency because we sometimes assume that we need to go into this like military robotic action that has to look and feel the same way every day. F that. Okay? F that. I am not subscribing to that anymore. I used to. I'm type A. Trust me, I used to. But we are these crazy, wild, magical beings, and there's always so much change and movement within us and around us. But that doesn't mean that we can't build habits that support us. And at times, these are the very habits that will keep us sane and will keep us grounded and allow us to continue. Okay, that felt like a little bit of a detour, but I really wanted to talk about this. So the reason why I wanted to record this episode is because I've noticed that with quite a few individuals going through any sort of transition in life, there will be this recurring theme where they would struggle to show up for whatever the new venture goal project that they're working towards do, right? In career context or career change context, it could be maybe you've decided to apply for a new job, or maybe you're decided to launch a business. So the effort would rarely be consistent, or it would happen in spurts, like in these little sprints, which is great. Not all of us are marathon runners. Some of us are sprint runners. But what would happen is like they would have, say, 2 good days on working on something. They would get elated, excited, and then they drop the ball for like 2 weeks. Oh, and the interesting thing though, even though they would like go back and drop and kind of retreat for a couple of weeks and wouldn't get anything done, but they would be always thinking that they should be working on things. But again, for one reason or another, they'd allow other responsibilities to take over, circumstances or individuals distract them, whatever that may be. My clients and I, we laughingly say, life is lifing, right? Life will always be lifing, and there will be always something to focus on. So if you find yourself in this pattern, this episode is for you with a lot of love. Now, just like with any other subject matter, we could obviously analyze this from so many angles, and there are layers to it and different lenses that we can look at this phenomena, if you will. We can look at it through a spiritual and energetic lens, emotional or personality level, mental, cognitive, and belief level, and even the physical sense of it, right? And I've touched upon this in a lot of other episodes because I like to talk about the shadow aspects of change. The shadow aspects meaning certain reasons, events, patterns that are not obvious to us. And, we talked a lot about what it looks like from an identity perspective, because us changing something usually threatens our ego structure, and our ego wants to survive. And ego thrives in the familiar status quo, even if it's hurting us sometimes. So when we start shaking things up, parts of us will be resisting the change, and they will be seducing us to stay in the familiar hell versus venturing out into the new landscapes, the new fields, the new territory. We also spoke about nervous system and how important it is to regulate ourselves, because we are all so dysregulated, disembodied, disconnected. We're not, quote unquote, home in our bodies most of the day. And we're not fully available. We're not fully online. I mean, we spend a lot of time online, but physically speaking, when it comes to embodiment, we're not online. Therefore, these big changes will trigger deeper drop into fight or flight or freeze or fawn responses. That will make it almost impossible to move or take action, especially again when we are in that sort of functional freeze mode. So when we first want to focus on, when we're in that state, we want to first focus on creating safety in our body by regulating, especially if we already exhibit some symptoms of burnout and that happened because of your current misaligned career. So nervous system regulation, breath work, somatic practices, movement will be your best friends. So there are obviously those angles that are very relevant to you transitioning in your career. But today I want to talk about another angle, which if you could get clear on, would really help you release so much resistance and end this one step forward, two step back pattern that you might too find yourself in. And that angle is asking yourself, how is staying stuck serving me? Hi, beautiful humans. I'm going to quickly interrupt our regular programming for something I'm so genuinely excited to share with you. You know those moments when you're recording a podcast about aligning with your authentic design and suddenly you realized you should probably tell your listeners about the program that you've created that does exactly that. Yes, this is one of those moments. So if what we're discussing today is resonating with you, and if you're nodding along thinking, yes, I need this kind of guidance for my career transition too, I've created something special. The Holistic Career Change Group Program is officially opening its doors again, and I'd love for you to be part of it. It's an all-in-one, one-stop shop, 5-month career change bootcamp where I've thought of everything for you. I've packed nearly a decade of my experience working with career changers and structured it all into bite-sized, easy-to-implement steps, from dealing with imposter syndrome to getting clarity on your most aligned career path to creating a practical transition plan that takes care of your financial well-being. The program will combine really powerful one-on-one coaching sessions where we will dive deep into your specific challenges with a supportive group element where you connect with your like-minded sisters who will be changing careers alongside you. And you will develop clarity around your unique gifts. You'll learn to navigate transitions with confidence instead of fear, and you'll create a strategic action plan that honors your energetic design. I really wish this existed when I was changing my career. Unlike traditional career coaching, we will address both the practical aspects and the energetic, spiritual, and emotional components that most programs overlook when it comes to career change. So if you're feeling called to explore this path, I've created a waiting list so you can join right now and be the first one to learn about the program details. All you need to do is Scroll down, find the show notes, and click on the link where you'll be able to join the waiting list and get all the juicy details. Okay, the announcement is over. Now let's get back to our episode. I promise it's worth the wait. And hey, if human design has taught me anything, it's that manifestors need to inform, projectors need to be invited, and podcasters, we just need to interrupt. How is staying stuck serving you? If you're familiar with parts work and at least the very basic mechanism of trauma, you know that nothing, absolutely nothing about our actions, our choices, or decisions is random or illogical. Nothing. Whatever we do or whatever we don't do serves a purpose and makes perfect sense to a part within us or several parts within us, right? Now, it may make no sense for the other parts, the more conscious, the logical parts inside of us. So what will happen is that this inner conflict will be birthed between parts that want to go one direction and parts that want to stay, and vice versa. So it's almost like, imagine there will be like a part of you that is pulling you to one direction, saying like, don't go there, stay, it's comfortable here. It's not that bad where we are at. We know the rules. Like, we don't have energy to start something new. Let's just stay around for a little bit longer. Let's just think about it more. While other parts will want to move and conquer and build and grow, expand, and will be like, go, 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 go. Let's go. This is not working for us. And when these parts are battling it out, so to speak, internally, externally, there simply will be no to very little movement. No to very little action, because all the energy is consumed by this inner conflict to the point where we have just little energy left to take any sort of action. So before we shame ourselves for not having done more, I hear this a lot from my clients. You know, they'll come to the session and they'll say, oh, I should have done more. I should have prepared more over this past week. I really was busy. I ran out of time to work on business, and so on and so forth, right? There's a lot of shaming and regret, which we all know, by the way, is not true. All of these reasons are not the actual reasons why they didn't get it done. Because when something is important enough to us, when something feels dire, when something feels a priority, we get it done, right? No questions asked. But if there is this inner opposition, showing up becomes less and less straightforward for us. Creating quote unquote consistency becomes near impossible for us, right? And then what will happen, in order to justify ourselves, in order to not experience this conflict, we will all tell ourselves these like white lies that, you know, that we were busy, that we're tired, that we're not in a mood, that this is not the right moon phase. Oh my goodness, we entered the Aries season. I should not make, like rapid rush action and so on. But deep down, if you really are honest with yourself, you know these are not the actual reasons. This is not your actual truth. By the way, when I say all of this again, I want to give a big caveat. I'm not talking about people here in the active phase of burnout who are, those whose authority in human design is clearly telling them that it's not time to move yet. I'm talking about this inner part work here and this intricate mechanism that coexists within us. So if you recognize yourself within this like 1 step forward, 3 steps back, 10 steps back sometimes pattern, what you want to first and foremost get really clear on is asking yourself, how is me staying stuck serving me? What is the emotional payoff of being stuck? For example, say you decide you want to launch a business and you may still have your day job, your misaligned day job, and perhaps you have a family and even young kids, okay? So your plate is beyond full. So you tell yourself, for example, you say like, okay, so I need to carve out time to work on my business. It's going to be a side hustle at first, side business, and then I'm going to launch it like full-time scale and so on. So you say that, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to dedicate, say, 2 mornings during the work week. I'll get up early before my kids, and I'll work on my business. And then you'll say I'll dedicate maybe half of Sunday because sometimes tend to be more quiet, right? My husband can take my kids away to play, and I'll have like my house for myself. I'll work on my business then as well. So I'll work for like 3 or 4 hours on Sundays, right? And say week 1, you do show up on those mornings and you spend an hour on Sunday. And then next week, you only manage to give it maybe 1 morning per week. And Sunday, you just maybe don't feel like it. So you don't get it done. But you tell yourself, listen, I'm not going to work on Sunday, but comes next week, I'm going to definitely catch up. Then week 3 comes and life is happening and, your children need some help with their homework. And you realize at the end of the week, you barely showed up for your business at all. And week 4, you then realize that you only think about working and you constantly think about all of these ideas and you worry about working on your business, but you don't do anything. And then this becomes habitual pattern where you think you should be working and doing something, but it doesn't translate into action. It doesn't create results. It doesn't grow your business. So then you start feeding and cultivating these new limiting beliefs that building business is hard, that I have no time, that this will never work, and so on and so forth, right? And also notice I talk about it a lot as well on this podcast and with my clients. Thinking about working takes the same amount of energy, if not more, than actually doing it. Especially if you're overthinking it, that will take much more energetic resources, much more life force energy out of you. It will cost you life force energy, much more than getting it done, right? So then you start building these limiting beliefs around business, but the issue is not that building a business is objectively hard. It really depends, right? A lot of people have different stories. That's not the issue here. The issue is that now you have all of these limiting beliefs that will not inspire you to actually do something towards your business and take action. So first, what you want to do is get super clear. How much are you actually doing and how much are you thinking about doing? Okay. And I'm saying that, some of you are like, Vilma, like, that's rude. Stop calling me out. The only reason why I'm saying this is I cannot tell you how many times I'd have this conversation with career changers who say want to launch a business, who tell me that they've been trying to build a business for a year and it just doesn't work for them. They just need to pivot, or they need a different niche, or they need a different approach, or they need to quit their job to get it done. More time doesn't mean more productivity. You already know that. So when I hear that, I usually ask them, okay, can we look at your calendar or like the last couple of months? What have you actually done? Like what, in terms of the results created, right? Not when you were thinking about something, but you actually completed it. How many posts per week did you post, say, on social media? How much did you engage with your community? How many times did you talk about your offer? All of that above, right? And they usually have very little tangible results of their work. They usually have a lot of excuses why they couldn't do it. They'd be like, well, my website is not complete, so I couldn't talk about my offer. I'm like, people don't need your website. What they need is hearing from you how you have helped other people. For instance, if it's a healing business, or what your offer entails, or how you have used the tools for yourself to support yourself. That's what they need to hear. They don't need your website. That's an excuse, right? And, when I sort of ask them these questions, like objective questions, like what are the results, right? They usually, like I said, they just can't show a lot because what they've been mostly busy doing is thinking, beating themselves up, getting discouraged, self-soothing, and getting stuck in that spiral. So yes, I understand they are tired. Of course they are tired. They're exhausted, but not from working. They're exhausted from overthinking. Because working with intention and alignment is actually energizing. If you are my client and you're listening to this, you already know that. You experience glimpses of that. It will not suck you out of your energy. It will give you energy. Yes, aligned work will tire your body, but it will feed your soul, right? So again, ask yourself, how much objectively are you producing? And then if you see that you are not producing as much as maybe you thought that you were, because sometimes it can be really confronting to actually see like, oh, a month has passed and I only posted twice on social media and I worked on About Me page on my not finished website and I'm not even close to actually launching it. right? So if you're not producing, then you want to ask yourself, why staying stuck is serving me? Perhaps staying in this as is currently allows you to feel safe and in control. These are very basic human needs. Perhaps it protects you from potential rejection. Maybe it allows you to keep your relationships and not ruffle feathers in your relationships. Perhaps it allows you to conserve energy because you're convinced that you have very little energy. So you're like, oh, if I will launch and if I'm actually successful, I won't have enough energy to get this business going. Which, by the way, happens a lot, again, if you're coming out of burnout. So this is my really sincere, very sincere invitation for you to get super, super clear about the underlying reason of why this is happening. And usually what a lot of you will find that what's been stalling you or the emotional payoff is around some sort of fear or around certain needs that right now are being met by you staying stuck. So once you know that, you can then work through the fear and you can find how to meet your needs elsewhere, and usually in a much healthier way than right now. So what I'm going to do, I want to share with you a couple of questions, and ideally you want to journal on them. You'll probably resonate with some questions more than the others. So try to respond to at least, at least 5 of these. I'm going to give you a lot. Especially the last one that I'll give you around needs. I really would love for you to journal, because when you write things out, it opens up new layers of awareness for you. So these questions are from a worksheet that I have that I sometimes share with my clients when we're working through this particular pattern. So first, I'd love for you to think and respond what specific aspects of your current situation feel the most challenging or the most uncomfortable. Right? So for instance, maybe you're like, okay, I'm launching a business, and what feels really uncomfortable is that I need to put myself out there and I don't like being seen. I'm afraid to be seen. So me staying stuck or me slacking on building my business allows me to feel safe. Okay. Another question, how long has this pattern been present in your life? Has this only appeared right now when you're about to transition into something bigger, when you're about to reveal your more authentic self, or has this been a pattern ever since you were little? A lot of the times that's the case. Again, that will give you extra awareness and understanding of when this was created. You also want to ask yourself, what previous attempts have you made to change this situation? Again, sometimes the way that we lull ourselves in this sort of stuckness where we're like, well, I tried to do that didn't work. I tried to work on my limiting beliefs. I tried to listen to binaural beats when I sleep. That didn't help me. However, when we say that, right, that closes the door to other potential alternative solutions and support that would allow you to work through the situation. So what attempts have you already made? If you haven't made any attempts, why? Another question, how does staying in this situation is reinforcing your identity and how you see yourself? That's a very common one, especially for those of you who right now, conventionally, objectively, socially speaking, have achieved a certain status, or maybe you have a certain role and title that offers you respect, recognition from your peers or from your loved ones, right? So how does staying in this situation, how does staying stuck is allowing you to reinforce this identity? If you're a lawyer, right? And everyone was like, oh my goodness, you're a lawyer. How cool. Tell me more. So staying stuck allows you to still impress people, to be acknowledged, to be recognized for who you are. A similar question is, which is a really interesting one, is, are there any aligned choices that your current situation gives you permission to make? Are there any aligned choices that your current situation gives you permission to make? For example, if you feel burnt out, perhaps the payoff of staying stuck and not launching that business is that you have a legitimate excuse to always be resting. Like it's legitimately your doctor said you need to rest it out. So every time you pick up, you want to do something and then you feel fearful, you may use this as a legitimate excuse not to put yourself out there. Or another one is maybe having ADHD, so you have a legitimate excuse not to finish tasks and be scattered and be all over the place. By the way, me mentioning burnout and ADHD, that's not me invalidating how challenging it can be to work around these. I have clients with both. So I'm definitely not saying that it's easy to work around it. But there are definitely ways how to work with it and how to be respectful of those conditions and still move forward. Another question is, how might your current situation and you staying quote unquote stuck, how might it be protecting you from something you fear? And what might feel safer about remaining in this discomfort than stepping into growth? So while a lot of us can give us from the top of our head, like, oh, this reason and that reason, I really want you to stay with, especially this question, with these two questions, because there are layers to this answer. At first, we'll get the surface layer answers like, oh, I'm afraid that someone will make fun of me. And you go down, 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 and usually you'll find a core limiting belief there. How does your current situation also allows you to connect with important people in your life? Usually we're fearful of the loss of connection when we're growing out of a certain phase of our lives. What family or generational patterns might you be participating in through your current circumstances? Are there generational familial patterns that you are copy-pasting in this situation? A lot of the times, it's also very common that I see with my clients where, say, they would have the same relationship with their self-worth and their career as their mothers did or as their fathers did. And it takes them some time to connect the dots and realize, oh my goodness, I'm literally repeating the same pattern that I saw growing up. That's true for our relationships, but that's also true for our relationship with work, right? And the final two questions that I feel like are very, very important. If you're lazy to answer the other ones, which again, I would offer you to answer all of them because trust me, there will be so many aha moments when you do. But these two are very important. Is what needs are being met through your current situation where you remain stuck? So you want to list all of those needs that are being met, and then you want to ask yourself, how can you meet those needs in an alternative, probably healthier way? So for each of those needs, you want to then write down how it could be met differently. For example, a very common one, people are afraid to lose connection with their loved ones because, say, their father or the partner might not be supportive of career change. So what you want to ask yourself in this situation is, how can I still meet my need for intimate, soulful, supportive connection outside of my relationship? By the way, I'm not talking about breaking up with someone. I'm just saying I want to be intentional and realistic about how I meet my needs. So as opposed to meeting my need by dimming my light and staying stuck, because that's when I feel connected, because that's when I'm less threatening to my certain intimate relationships. That's when I play out the projections that my family has been putting on me, right? As opposed to dimming my light and feeling connected. How can I find alternative sources of deep connection? So for many career changers, this will look like joining aligned communities of like-minded people. When you're changing careers, say again, if you're moving into a healing field, you will feel, if you join those communities of fellow healers. I remember when it happened to me when I first joined it, like in person, when I went to a retreat for healers. I cannot even tell you, like I was crying nonstop for like almost 2 days. That's how healing and relieving it felt for my body. I was like, I'm home. These are my people. They get it. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to justify myself. I just look at them, I say one word, and they get it. There's unconditional acceptance. So with those people, you will feel connected, you will feel supported, you will be seen and understood. You will not be judged by your choices. Again, you won't need to explain yourself. They will just get it. They will get you. And once you find that soul tribe, one family member who may not be supportive of your choice will not feel so scary because you have built at points sometimes even deeper connections with your aligned, like-minded people. So I just got passionate for a moment. So I really hope that you'll take some time, you will pause and you will journal on these questions and get to the bottom of like why you are still holding yourself back and what is the payoff of you staying there. Because again, just to reiterate, you getting stuck is not about, or you not following through, or you not being quote unquote consistent has little to do with your willpower, with time, with clarity that you have about what to do next. It really is about that inner conflict. And I hope that this is very helpful. I definitely still do this exercise myself when I feel stuck, because again, as we're transitioning through life, we're entering different stages, we have different challenges. It's like a computer game. You graduate from one level, you go to the next one, and in the next one, there'll still be so many blind spots that we can work with. And whenever I do that, I really find this very transformative, and it's almost like I reclaim parts of myself and I release a lot of energy, which then can be directed towards whatever new thing, new project, new idea, new launch that I'm thinking about. And a reminder, by the way, if you're listening to this real time, if you are tired of doing this work on your own, or if you have done all of these scattered exercises, but you still feel like you are stuck, you still don't know how to move forward, you still don't have full clarity about what alignment looks like for you in a career context, I want to remind you that we are starting the enrollment to the new cohort of the Holistic Career Change Group program. The enrollment starts on April 14th, and the group will kick off on May 1st on Beltane. And it's essentially an all-in-one career change program, all under one roof, the support that you will need to successfully first identify and then transition into your aligned career or business, whatever it is for you. So it's from rewiring your limiting beliefs to working with energetics, to understanding your unique career archetype and DNA. Usually this is the information that is missing for us to be able to make those educated choices and decisions for our career. Once you understand who you are in a career context, and we do that, we clarify that through astrology, through introspection, through human design. We also have one-on-one sessions with me. Even though it's a group container, you also have a lot of one-on-one support available for you. From me to somatic coach who will help you with breath work and regulation, to financial coach who will help you with planning your finances, right? It's like having your career change a team in one place. And the reason why I created this program like that, and it's been tested by many cohorts already, is because I feel like career change is so multidimensional. Is from the internal changes that we'll go through when it comes to, say, identity work, as an example, all the way to practical decisions that we'll need to make in order to make this successful. And that's why this container covers it all. I wanted to have it all in one place. And it's not just community healing, but it's also a lot of personalized approach where I work with every single person individually through the love work or the homework that they submit in between the weeks. I give a lot of feedback. I'm extremely involved in this group because I feel like the beauty happens in the intersection between this community healing, but also one-on-one guidance and support. And the reason why this is probably one of my favorite programs that I've created is because of the community aspect, because I know how lonely career change journey can be for so many of you. I know how often misunderstood you feel. Like we laugh with our clients that we're like the black sheep of the family, the black sheep of the society sometimes. it's not often that we bump into other people who get it. And in every single cohort, I've seen this beautiful support system and sisterhood that is built within these containers where there's so much love and support for each other and their own individual purpose. So as you can tell, I'm very passionate and excited about this because this is such an amazing container to come back to your truth and to set the foundations for your new aligned, purpose-led career chapter. So like I said, we start enrolling on April 14th. We kick off on May 1st. And there's a link in the show notes to join the waiting list. And by the way, you do want to join the waiting list because if you have access to that, there will be bonuses and fun surprises available just for the waiting list people. This is a small group container. I keep it small for a reason because I want this to be a place where we build real relationships, where there's real care, real connection. It's not one of those 100 people in a room and no one really gets to speak or share or feel like they're supported, right? So that's why you want to join the waiting list and you want to be the first one to hear all of the information. And if you want, reserve the spot. I can't wait to see you inside. Have a magical week. Thank you for spending time with me today. If you enjoy this content, please make sure you subscribe to this podcast and leave a quick review to help us share the message of aligned work with the world. And if you'd like to learn more about how to find and transition into your very own purpose-led career or business that feels like getting paid for being yourself, make sure you check out the episode notes below. Have a wonderful week.